think we're just trying to figure out who you're coaching.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of new changes. You know, there's defensive end, edge. So
right.
What do you call the players that you're coaching?
You're right. I guess it depends on the defense that's called, but technically, most often not the position I coach is called the jack. It's an outside linebacker, DN, edge type bias. So my title is a little interesting because there's a lot we ask them to do, which is good. So you put them in a lot of different positions, different situations, see who can do what. What's unique about the group is that we have a lot of different skill sets, a lot of different body types, but what they bring to the table is different situation-based. So long-winded answer to your question, technically they're called jacks in our defense, but they're going to be all over the place, all over the field, doing a lot of different stuff.
And how much does that differ than like the buck that we learned about recently?
Yeah, so buck is more of like I shouldn't say traditional. Buck is more often an inside backer, but again, like Coach Bateman's defense is so unique because these guys are lined up in a lot of different spots just because we have such a unique roster, I would say. So try to utilize everybody's talents, figure out where we can put them in the best situation, go succeed. So if you're looking at body type comparison, Buck's more of like your inside backer, and a jack's more of your traditional stand-up DN outside backer.
So it felt like retaining guys at that jack position, Sam, Lorenzo, CJ was important. What did you like about those guys?
Most definitely. While I was, before I was here and trying to figure out who was going to be left on the roster, turn on the tape and you see these guys that get to play a lot of snaps in the prior years and seeing what they're able to do. And I wouldn't say it's completely different from what they've done in the past. There's a lot of similarities. I think some of the techniques may be different, and then obviously there's some newer things we're asking them to do, but I think you're right. Having a good starting point has been great for us, especially guys that have some experience. Sam kind of leading the charge with the most reps, and you got Lorenzo that's played a bunch. You got CJ Works, and you got Antonio Berry came over from Gardner Webb, who's adding another element to that. So rolling with the punches there, but they've been doing a good job attacking it, so been a good start.
What did you all like about Antonio? From a smaller school, who you thought could translate this way?
I mean, when you look at him against the, higher scale competition, they play like Georgia Tech and things like that. You can see the competition was there. I think he was more of like a true DN in that system he was playing in. So challenging to do a little bit more has been different for him, but he's been able to pick it up extremely well. And just the pass rush element, like I'm always going to be looking for pass rush number one. And can you finally set the edge? In this conference, you're going to hand that ball off. So you got to have that grit and that grind to really stop it. And I think he showcased that. Getting to know him throughout the recruiting process, it was crazy. I wasn't even here yet, but having to recruit for this place while you're not, all the same stuff Stein had to do and Coach Bateman had to do was all the same situation. But all those things showcased it, all those guys I was looking at, right? Whether it was Sam, whether it was Antonio in a different jersey, just trying to put the pieces together to kind of fit what we're looking for defensively. It all kind of just made sense.
Most of the coaches that Will brought with him from previous stops were offensive guys because that's what he knows. You,
right.
As the defensive guy who came with Will, what made you want to sign on to this project here?
Well, obviously, me and Coach Stein's crossover in Oregon back in 23. His first year there was my last year, and just knowing what he was about, how he was going to be in the offense was a huge thing for me, but also just getting to know Coach Bateman over the years. I'm kind of like a football junkie, so I'm always keeping up on defenses around college football, who's doing what, and I just always knew in his defense he was always having dominant front players, especially on the edge. You look at Cassius Howell, who was SEC Player of the Year last year and was probably like 1 or 2 in sacks, so knowing that the position I'd be coaching would be able to play a little more aggressively. I've been in some defenses where it's a little bit more structured in the sense of like, these guys have to do this. I think how we allow them to utilize their strengths on the field was something that was a plus for me. And, Coach Bateman is an awesome human being. Just being around in the office, and I feel like he's challenged me to be a better coach. Same thing with Coach Stein. So as I'm, going throughout my process in my career, trying to figure out how I can continually to grow, being a new defensive system and obviously attack the SEC, like that was all pluses for me. So I'm blessed to be here.
CJ Works just doesn't look like, he just looks completely different than what we saw him when he was first getting here. How have you just seen him grow?
Yeah. Man, he's a big cat. You got to remind yourself of how young he is sometimes, But you're absolutely right. Like I think he's a guy that really honed in with Coach Roberts this offseason in the weight room, and we're really just getting started, right? He's 19 years old, still going into his sophomore year, so I think he has a high ceiling, but just continue to coach him. That's one thing I appreciate about my group is that they're hungry for coaching, and they're sponges. They're willing to take it all in. sometimes when you come in with a new place like this, you have some success on defense, and maybe some resistance. But I haven't really felt that at all. Like, these guys come out every day willing to work. Does it look perfect? No. They make mistakes, yeah, of course, but they're willing to take the coaching and push on. So CJ's been a guy that I've been impressed with, just from the sense of like being able to take it all in. Like, he's being kind of thrown into the fire a little bit more, just in terms of what we're asking him to do, right? And he's taking it day by day. He has a skill set to be elite, and I'm pushing all these guys to go get it, because I think we got a very, very, very talented room. I think like I said in the beginning, they all bring something different to the table, but they can be really, really good. So I'm pushing them, and there's no foot off the gas for me. Like, we're really just scratching the surface right now. So I feel like we have a good start, but we still got a really, really long way to go. So we're just going to keep attacking it, and it's going to keep taking the coaching.
Sam, you mentioned Sam earlier.
Yeah.
Coming off that injury, how involved can he even be?
Yeah.
And what's his just kind of impact been now that while he's dealing with that?
He's had a great deal of impact on our room. Like, that was one of the first things I talked to him when I got here, was just like, we got to be involved. And he's on the field, he's around, he's pretty much out there, So obviously, we want to be smart about his timeline and what needs to happen. But just from a cerebral standpoint of him being out there, he has the most amount of snaps in the room, right? So understanding like blocking schemes, different route concepts we may be getting as a defense, how we have to affect the quarterback. I think those things he's able to explain in a different level of detail as a current player on the field versus from a coach's lens. So he's a great help for me, just being another voice on the field. And if I'm not getting him the correction, he might be there before I'm even there to give him the correction. So he's there. He's in the meetings. He's in the on the field with us. So he's there for us, and he's been a great leader for us, just in the sense of having another voice. Like, ultimately, I'm gonna have my coaching points, and he knows that we're gonna kind of control the ship. But I am very adamant about him being involved, just because he can give another side of it from actually just being out there the most. He's played a lot of football, whether it was here, whether it was at Southern Cal. So just different perspective I think he brings to the group.
How would you describe your recruiting strategy in this era where everybody's obviously wants to know what the financial part of it is, but as a recruiter, how do you approach all that?
I don't know if I'd say I have a specific strategy. For me, it's all about relationships, and I think what we're trying to do here is slightly different in terms of the type of guys that we're bringing in. Like yeah, there's an NIL element, but ultimately, like, what Coach Stein really preaches is that, like, we want guys that want to be here. So it's really developing an understanding of what somebody's trying to get out of their recruiting process, and if it matches what we're looking for, then we have a good mesh. As you know, it can get wild and crazy with all things that's going on outside of football, but we can't lose sight of what the most important thing is. So for me, like, I'm hungry as a coach. I know our staff is really hungry to come in and attack and get some wins. So we got to get guys that's with that same process, and if we don't fit that, that's okay. We're not gonna be desperate for guys we feel like doesn't fit what we're looking for. Obviously it's got to look a certain type of way on the field, but for me, like, your mentality and your approach to the game has to look a certain type of way too. So I like to dive deep into it, because when you get here, I'm the same way. Like, I talk about, like, developing the total athlete. Like, it's one thing, again, your technique right on the field, but I also feel like things we do outside this building, how we carry ourselves in the community, how we handle academics, all that stuff matters. So I try to be very transparent up front about how I am as a coach and what our expectations are of you when you walk in this building. And it really just comes from getting to know guys. And to me, it's not always about, like, hey, look how I can coach you up and do this. Like, there's obviously elements of that and showing you how you can be a coach, but there's also deep diving into, like, what do you like in the classroom? What do you like with your buddies? What do you like to do outside of football? How are you in the weight room? All that type of stuff matters, because I think my group, they're competitive, they're hungry, they want to grow and get better. So I have to bring guys that kind of match that temperament, so we're not just having guys that are, whatever, different. I'm not saying your personalities have to be exactly the same. You can be a high-energy guy and more of a low-key guy, but when we step on the field, it's time to work. When we step in the weight room, it's time to work. When we step in the classroom, it's time to work. It's more of that mentality piece. So that's kind of how I approach it, and that really, showcases based off the development and the relationship building, I'd say.
Everybody that's spoken with us this spring has talked about the competition out there. That word comes up constantly. And the Mamba drill.
No doubt.
That people seem excited about.
Yeah.
What have you seen that bring out in your guys going against this group that Coach Leftwich and Coach Burke have assembled?
I think it's been awesome, man. I think it's been some good battles back and forth. I wouldn't say we win every rep. I wouldn't say we lose every rep. But ultimately, if you want to put, like, the best product out there on game day, you got to have some type of competition element. And that comes from, just being at your best when your number is called. Can you make that play? And I think that's what the Mama drill is about. It's just mano a mano. Who's going to win this rep, right? And if you're going against a quality player, like, I think we brought in a great a transfer portal group, and we were able to retain some really, really good players. So I think there's competition all across the board, and ultimately it pushes you to be at your best, because on Saturday that's what's going to be. Whether it's 50 players on defense or 85, like you got to be at your best every single moment. And we're kind of just constantly challenge them to be in those uncomfortable situations. Like, it's never fun. You're in mama drill, you lose a rep, but like for me, how can I coach up the technique, the takeoff, the get off, like what were you trying to get accomplished on that particular play or that particular drill we were in, right? So understanding how we can attack it, understanding how we can constantly find ways to be hungry for those competitive moments versus like shying away from it and kind of waiting for somebody else to make a play. That's kind of been the mentality I'm pushing with the group. Like, nobody's coming to save you, and like obviously you can make plays within the scheme, but like when you're in that moment, like let's go make it. Let's do more than what than just setting in our gap and letting the linebackers feel. Like, let's make that a buddy tackle so we can make our entire defense better, if that makes sense. So it's more of a mentality, and I think Coach Stein's doing an awesome job of putting our groups and our sides of the ball in competitive situations, so we know, when they show up in the game, we're prepared for it.
You were at Ohio State, Oregon, pretty big brands in this sport. Is it any different recruiting at a place like Kentucky than those places?
Yes and no. I would say, places like Ohio State, at Oregon I've been at, they kind of have more of a recruiting strategy. There's like a type of player you're attracting, and I think here is a little bit different because we're trying to be a little bit more unique. And like, to truly fit in this place, you got to know what the mentality is like is here. I would definitely say it's more of a blue-collar type of environment. Not saying those other places aren't. I would just say like the type of player we're looking for is a little bit different. And it's less about the stars. Obviously, like I said, the tape is the tape, but when you come in here, what is your mentality? Are you just comfortable because you've made it, you're D1 now and we're in the SEC and it's good, or are you trying to go be different? And I think Coach Stein, that was his initial plan here, is to try to be different. Not saying what was in the past was bad or good or whatever, it's just different what we're trying to get done. And I think if you look at college football and how it stands right now, it's not like it's the same teams everywhere hosting that trophy up year in year. Is who wants it the most that year. And I think if we can get that mentality collectively as a group, we'll be in good position. So we just got to keep attacking it.
I do have a question about playing guys, though. Rose Bowl. What goes through your mind when you see that ball flying backwards out of Jameis's hands?
Man, that was many moons ago. So trying to put myself back in there, I honestly don't really remember. I do know I was technically supposed to be in coverage on that play, but sometimes you have intuition as a ball player, so I was just like, got to risk it for the biscuit. So you go get it, and I'm in great position. I just remember scoring and thinking, like, shoot, I have to go right back on defense now. And, like, in that moment, if you were to ask me how many years it's been, 10, 12 years that we still be talking about it, I wouldn't even be thinking about it. But, like, almost every month somebody's tagging me in it on social media or I'm seeing it. So it's kind of crazy to have one of those moments. Like, Rose Bowl is an awesome game, especially being a Southern Cal guy. It's like they truly say granddaddy of them all for a reason. So I don't know, man. Just got to make plays. Like I said, when your number's called, can you make a play? And that's kind of how I live. Yeah.
You played high school football with Steven Johnson, who was a quarterback here in the last bit I talked to him. He said that you were really cool and you were kind of a leader there. What do you remember? I don't know if you know Steven at all, but your roots in Southern California, would you ever imagine getting to Kentucky of all places?
Man, I never was even thinking about coaching that far along. Like in high school, I was just like, what can I do to get to college, get my school paid for, compete at the highest level? So at that moment, I was really like laser focused. And looking back, I wish I was a little bit more like acting like a high school kid, enjoying the moment. I felt like I had like a handful of friends in high school just because I was just so laser focused. I got to get to college, whatever it takes, and didn't necessarily enjoy it. And that's something I share with our guys now. Like, I feel like I had a great playing career, both college and the league. And if there's one thing I would do, go back in time, just enjoy where I'm at, be where my feet are a little bit. I played in 2 national championships, and all I remember those weeks leading up to it was like, how can we win? How can we win? And like, I don't feel like I truly enjoyed those moments as much. So it's a delicate balance of always working hard and also like taking time to enjoy the moment, and we can just go attack it from there. So
you talked about having that player's intuition back in your playing days. When you're coaching, how much do you balance this is what we're doing versus kind of letting players have that intuition? At what point does a player kind of gain that trust to you to maybe go rogue a little bit sometimes?
Yeah, I don't know if go rogue is the right word, but more so like understand the parameters within the defense. That's what's great about Coach Bateman's defense is that we're very detailed in what we can do, right? This is your job on the play. These are your options, how you can get that job done. So it may look different from the offense based off of what these guys are trying to do, but that's where you kind of gain the players' trust and understanding how exactly I can do this, right? I'm supposed to be in a C gap, let's be in a C gap. How I'm going to play it can be based off of the set of the offensive line, the play that we're getting, well, maybe it's a formation, right? So all those type of things kind of come into play. So it's really about explaining to them exactly what we're trying to get done, understanding what the other 10 people around you are doing, and then when you're able to explain that to me, right now I feel a little bit more comfortable about how you're deciding to do that play, if that makes sense.
Couple more.
Is there a guy on the other side of the line that's really testing your guys on a daily basis to bring in?
Honestly, I'd say a few. Like obviously Lance Hurd, like he's a real guy, and I think our guys realize we got to come with it every single time against him. I think Olas has been great for us. Colton at the center spot, like I said, we're all over the place, and those guys are great leaders. Big Mark's another one. I mean, there's a plethora of guys. Tegra, like whoever it is, you know. I mean, we can be lined up against whoever, depending upon the drill that we have. Sometimes we do one-on-one pods and we line up against the center, whoever it is, right? So for me, just these guys have a ton of experience playing games with a group that maybe doesn't have as much in-game experience. Again, challenge them to compete, be at their best has been a great help. You know, obviously I know Cutter for a long time. Dallas, another guy I've known for a real long time. Like, I know what they're going to bring to the table offensive line-wise up front, so it's on us to kind of bring that same energy and effort to compete. So it's been good both sides of the ball. I've been enjoying it, just seeing the battles. Like I said, it's not always a win, it's not always a loss, but I feel like either side's growing throughout that process. So those are just to name a few off the top of my head, but I would say like we have great depth on both sides of the lines, and we've been getting after it a little bit.
How did it help your career starting in that player development role in Oregon as opposed to just being a GA position coach?
Well, I actually did start as a GA. I was a GA for 2 years at Nebraska. That was my first job. My position coach was defense coordinator at that time. And I went into a player development role with Coach Cristobal when he was at Oregon. Was just ready to get back to the West Coast. Obviously, an opportunity to coach be at my alma mater was like something I felt like I couldn't pass up. And then we had a staff change. Coach Lanning came in, and then I really took a step back from like a full-time position like Courtney Love to being a GA again in a more of a coaching role, you know, as the rules starting to change and you didn't have to have just a 10 full-time guys coach position. I was able to do a little bit more. So, but I will say player development did a great deal for me as a coach, just for understanding like all the other elements that go into like getting these guys to Saturday, right? Making sure we're on top of our academics, making sure we're handling all the community engagement things, like getting out and meeting as fans. Like I feel like UK has such a great support, and like why not get to know those people? Why not, you know, build a strong community? All those people say it's a college town. I feel like it could be so spread out at times, but no matter where I go, I feel like the support is strong. So just kind of encouraging these guys to get out and just enjoy where you're at, because there's gonna be a ton of people supporting you, a ton of people like cheering your name on Saturdays, so we can do our part to get in the community. So for me, it just helped me have like a wider lens of like how we can develop these guys while they're here and maximize our opportunity while they're here. So I don't take it for granted at all. Like I'm appreciative of my path and my experiences, because I think it makes me day-to-day better as a coach.
Sorry, excuse me. Everybody good? Coach Burke, everybody's got their balance? Everything good? Okay, we'll turn it loose. Questions?
Justin, just how good has it been to be home?
Yeah, it's been very surreal. I think that's been the word. You know, I got 2 roommates right now. They asked me where I'm at after curfew. I'm living in my parents' house right now until my family gets up here. So feels a lot like back when I was here, 20 years ago at Lexington Catholic. So, that's what I love about coming back here. I sat in those stands watching these teams play. So it's special to be back here in the Commonwealth, around my friends, family. I'm excited to get my family here and just be around these guys that are on this team.
So many guys from who are at Louisville together on this staff. Did it take you all a little bit weird to put the blue on? Did it feel strange?
No, it was pretty quick. It was pretty quick. I think, we all have, we've all worn a lot of colors now. If you look at it, the longer you're in this business, the more colors you wear. But it does hit different when you come back in a place that, as a child and as a teen and as a high school player, that you grew up and watched. You watch as the Tim Counts, the Derek Abneys, the guys who have been around the program. Like when they talk to the team, I remember watching those guys. So there's a different type of pride when you're in your hometown, coaching at a premier university in the entire country.
Obviously, you have some familiarity too with the guys you're working with. Price, Coach Stein, obviously. How has that helped kind of speed up the transition in coming into a new place?
Yeah, I think it helps a lot. You know, obviously you know families. You know, I think it helps with the families and their transition. You know, so like Joy Price and my wife, they talk all the time, and you know Darby Stein, like all those guys. You know, that's the other part that's not really talked about. In the office, it's always easy. You know, like we've been through wars together, we've been through a lot of battles. We know how each other kind of operate and talk. And the biggest thing is, right, Coach Stein has done a great job of hiring people that have the same mindset he does about connection, right, about pouring into our players, great effort, like all the things that he's about. Everybody on this staff is about that, you know, and it just so happens a bunch of guys have grown up together and done that together, you know, so it's been pretty cool. But yeah, anytime you got a college roommate that you're working with again, that's pretty neat with Pete.
Your position group's might be the only one that didn't go out and get players in the portal. So what did you like about the tight end room when you first watched it on tape, and maybe what have you learned about them since spring practice started?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is just how those guys work. You know, like you can turn on the film, you watch the film, and how those guys go about their business on the game field. Like the amount of effort that was on there was just no question. And that's just been every single day been proven to me every single time I'm out there with those guys. They are just they don't say much. They go to work, and then when we need them to, they bring an intensity level that I haven't been around in a long time. So those guys are self-starters. They're amazing. Between Willie, Henry, Mikkel, Elijah, Justin, those guys, all right, they really pick me up too, you know. So it's a great group. I'm glad to see them. They're continuing to get better and better, and so I'm excited to see what's going to happen for them this season.
Willie was a guy who obviously you guys wanted to keep around and retain. How big can he be this next season? What kind of things can he do to take that next step?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, you know, when you get into college football, everybody's got talent. He's got elite level talent. You know, there's no question about that. But man, what his mindset and his intensity and his aggressiveness and the way he plays the game and the way he works, that's a separator. You know, especially in this conference, right? You got to have something you do special. And he does a lot of really great things. But man, the way he comes to work and his mindset, it's just a little different in a really good way.
When we saw him, it looked like he maybe was looking a little bit more slim. I think the same with Boyer. Was that something that was a point of emphasis?
Well, I think, you know, he's a wrestler, so he might be able to do that, you know, up and down type stuff all the time. You know, we talk about that all the time. I think it's important for our tight ends, any group that you have, to know, you know, what are the combine averages? What do guys look like at the next level that they all have dreams to go and play? So I think that's something from coaching staff to nutrition to strength and conditioning. It was a deal like, here's what is typical, right? Or here's where yours should be at, and we constantly talk about it. But that doesn't happen unless the player buys in. Like, so those guys like Henry, he did a great job with his body. Like, he's completely changed it from Christmas, right, and Thanksgiving on. He's completely changed, and he's moving better. He's playing well, running great routes, catching the football. He's doing all the things that a bigger body tight end needs to do. But I didn't lose the weight for him. It was him and his work and Coach Roberts and those guys in the strength conditioning, Devin with our nutrition. It takes a village on that. We just need to shine a light on it and what they need to be.
We didn't see Mikkel play much as a freshman, but it feels like Will kind of identified him from day one as a guy who can thrive in this offense. And he compared him to Kenyon Siddique's body type. What can he be?
Yeah, he can be whatever Mikkel wants to put into this. He can have as long a career, and he can have as great a college career, whatever he wants to get out of this, with the focus and growing up into this system. Because he does have, when he gets the ball, there's some unbelievable things that happen. You know, he's built the right way. Like he's really benefited from the older guys in the room who have experience, the Willies and the Henrys and those guys, like to teach him how to go and learn the offense, how to show up every day for practice. But again, like those guys can say that all they want. I can say that all I want. That dude has just, from the very beginning, had a great mindset about just getting better every single day. And then that allows his talent to show on the field. And anytime you got the head coach, you know, shining a light, like puts a little bit more pressure on you and a little bit more, all right, if this guy sees it, right, what can I really be?
How does the versatility of your unit serve the greater, you know, Will Stein jokes on offense?
Yeah, I think if you look at that, between those two guys and what they've played, the guys that they've coached and played with and had over the years, they have a great tradition of using the tight ends in all the ways that you have to. The biggest thing as a tight end coach, having done it for a long time now, like, you got to be good at everything. We're the only position really that does run blocking. We play receiver, we protect, we go catch and score, we play special teams, we shift move. I mean, there's so many things you have to get done at this position. The sky is the limit on what you have to get accomplished. So, I've got a really good group that they all come in there and they understand that. They know that they've got a lot to get done. We have to have a plan to get all of those so we can do enough of those things. And I tell our guys, the more you can do, the more you get to do. If you can go plug in and play in different formations, if you have the fundamentals and techniques that you can go do this, you're going to have a role in that. So it's a mandated versatility in the tight end room, and our guys have really bought into that.
As a tight end coach, are there particular players, maybe through NFL history or college history, that you're like, those intangibles, that is the secret to success? Yeah,
I think one of the things that we always try to do for our guys is obviously we feel really good about what we do offensively and how we teach those guys and how we develop. I think we have a really great plan for those guys. But it's always nice to back up your film with NFL film, and you look at those elite players. Like, okay, does this translate to the NFL? Is this guy doing the skills that I'm doing? Right? It's really fun to watch George Kittle go reach on an outside zone. It's really fun to watch Pitts go catch and score on option routes. Things like that. So anytime they can see other guys doing it, the more they get to watch, the more they can put themselves in their shoes, and they get banked reps without having to do it physically. So yeah, we always try to show them guys that, and we'll ask them what their favorite guy is, and we'll try to pull some clips and let them see that as a resource.
How have those guys been building their chemistry with Kenny, and what have you seen from just your standpoint of coaching them and from the quarterback?
Yeah, I think starting with the with the QB position is always important, and it takes a guy to come in and have a lot about him, and Kenny's done that, and those two, for sure, Henry and Willie, who have had a little bit more experience. Have had production, those things. You can always talk a little bit louder when you've proven on the field. And so anytime you have two guys like that, they become vocal leaders. And so really it's been a great camaraderie between those three, but it's also kind of like when they all get together, that's a powerful force when those three talk to the group, when those guys are saying huddle up, it's not just they're backing the QB up. So I think, from that standpoint, they've really tried to put their hands on this unit and make sure that they are great leaders.
I think Henry had caught a pass when he got here before last year at Illinois, and then we saw him catch a few things. It sounds like that's going to be a bigger part of his role. Just how have you seen him evolve?
Yeah, Henry's done a great job. He's so smart. He works so hard, and then he's quiet, but then all of a sudden there'll be this aggressive, like angry, hard-nosed football player that comes out. And I think what the best thing about Henry is the selflessness of, right, he'll do absolutely anything for our offense to move the ball and score. And with that, for the team. But, I mean, it's not one of those things where we're not going to throw him the football. Like, he's done a great job out there. He's constantly on the Monarch catching. Like, he's constantly asking how to get himself open, those type of things. He's trimmed down, so he's moving well. But we see him as a weapon. All those guys, like I said, they got to do everything. They got to play in the backfield. They got to go play spread out. They got to be on the line. They got to be off the line. They got to go play all those roles. And the more they can, the more they get to.
A couple more. Anyone else?
Yeah, there's so many guys in that coaching room who have called plays before. How much fun have you all just had building the Kentucky offense or whatever? It's obviously Will's vision, but like bits and pieces of what you've done.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Coach Sloan does a great job of leading it. It's always fun when we're in a meeting and Coach Stein will come in and pop in and draw a couple things up. We put those in, and those are working pretty good. You know what I mean? So I think everybody, it's a very egoless room. I think everybody kind of understands what we can build here. That the path and the offense is a proven deal from when it was built long ago. And now it's just about how can we fine tune it, how can we make it our own, and how can we make it fit our players. And that's the key. That's what spring is. Like, let's find out who our team is.
Kind of a bigger picture type thing with the tight end. It seems like all the good offenses these days, college or pro, seem to have that guy or multiple guys at the position. How has it changed since even when you were playing, the importance of the tight end in a big time offense?
Yeah, I think the Instagram, and the TikTok, they just get a little more pub now. They've always been extremely important. And where I was very fortunate, trust me, I'm sitting up here not because of myself, but because of the other coaches, players that have poured into me. And I had a great mentor from the very get-go. Coach Watson did a great job of utilizing those guys, moving around. Like, that was always something I grew up with as a coach and learned it very quickly. And it was poured into me of the importance of the position. So I've really known nothing else, about but the importance. I think people are starting to see and shine a light on it. Specifically in the NFL, you see a ton of guys playing in 12. There's always one on the field, and that's just, you're right. The tight end position has gotten a little bit more in the spotlight with good reason.
Who are the guys you threw to? Was Pete one of your tight ends?
Yeah. Pete and I were roommates. We had like when I was there at Louisville, we had some good groups, but everywhere I've been, there's been some great tight ends. Jeff Swaim and Tyler's, I can name a bunch of them, but I always, it's nice to throw to big guys. You know what I mean? Like, especially down the middle. But the cool thing is, like, that's what's nice about our group, the receiver group, the running back group, the tight end group. No one's bickering about touches, catches. Everybody's getting in a position to go and make some plays and show what they can do in the spring. So, I think that's been the biggest thing for our guys, is just seeing how many different ways we can target different positions.
Okay, folks, thank you very much.